I didn't plan on going back to the tower again, not after what I saw in that recording, in the footsteps that stopped just out of sight behind me. But by the next evening, the silence of the ranger station felt worse than the forest. Like whatever had been out there had followed me back, in a way I couldn't prove but couldn't ignore either. So I asked Grant to send someone with me. Told him I needed a second set of eyes on the watchtower, because the camera feed might be malfunctioning, and he assigned me a guy named Harris, who had been working the park longer than I had, and didn't scare easily. Which was exactly why I didn't tell him everything, only enough to get him in the truck without sounding like I was losing it. So, we drove out just before dark, the sky fading into that dull blue that makes the tree line look like a solid wall. And Harris kept the conversation light at first, asking about the report, joking about faulty cameras and bored night shifts. But I could tell he was watching me more than the road, like he could already sense something wasn't right, even if he didn't know what. When we reached the base of the tower, the gate was closed again, chain looped neatly like before, and Harris pointed it out immediately, saying maintenance must have come through earlier. But I knew that wasn't true, because I had checked the schedule myself, and I didn't argue. I just moved the chain aside and stepped in, feeling that same pressure settle over me the moment we crossed inside the fence. The climb up felt different this time with someone else there, the metal stairs echoing under both our steps, louder, more crowded, but somehow less comforting, because now there was someone else who could hear exactly what I heard. And if anything happened, I wouldn't be able to tell myself it was in my head. At the top, the room looked completely normal. No disturbed dust, no writing on the glass, no glow from the monitor. Just an empty space with fading light coming through the windows, and for a moment I felt something close to relief. Like maybe I had let the darkness get to me the night before. Maybe there was an explanation I just hadn't seen yet. And Harris walked around the room casually, tapping the dead monitor, checking the corners, even laughing a little as he said, "Yeah, real haunted place you got here." And I almost believed him until his radio crackled. We both froze at the same time because the sound didn't come from mine, it came from his, clipped to his shoulder. And it wasn't dispatch, it wasn't static, it was a voice, low and clear, cutting through the quiet in a way that made the air feel suddenly thinner. "He came back with you." Harris turned his head slowly toward me, his expression shifting from confusion to something tighter, more cautious, and he said, "Did you just say?" But I shook my head before he could finish, because I knew that voice. Not the exact tone, but the way it spoke, like it already knew the answer to whatever question you were about to ask. "Okay," he said after a second, forcing a small laugh that didn't quite land. "That's not funny." And he reached up to adjust the radio, probably thinking it was interference. But before his hand even touched it, the voice came again, closer this time, almost like it wasn't coming from the speaker anymore, but from somewhere inside the room. "You shouldn't have brought him." The words hung there for a second, and this time neither of us moved right away, because something about the way it said him made it clear it wasn't talking to Harris, it was talking to me. And I felt that same cold realization start to build again, the one that had been waiting just beneath the surface since the night before. Harris took a step back, scanning the room like he expected someone to be standing in one of the corners, and said, "All right, that's enough, we're leaving." And I nodded, because for once, I didn't want to stay. I didn't want to see what happened next. I just wanted distance between me and whatever had been watching me long enough to learn my voice, my movements, my habits. But as we turned toward the stairs, the radio let out one last burst of static, and then a whisper that stopped both of us mid-step. "Look at the window." I didn't want to, but Harris already had, his body going still in that way people do when they see something they don't understand. And when I followed his gaze, I saw it immediately on the glass, not scratched this time, not written slowly from the outside, but pressed there like a reflection that didn't belong, a second silhouette standing just behind us, close enough that if it had been real, I would have felt its breath on the back of my neck. And for a second, I couldn't tell if I was looking at a trick of the fading light or something actually standing in the room with us. Because when I moved slightly, the shape didn't move the same way. It lagged, just a fraction of a second too slow. Like it was copying what I did, instead of doing it naturally. And that was when Harris said quietly, "There's someone behind you," even though we were both looking at the same thing and neither of us had the courage to turn around and check.